Title: Inside El Salvador's Mega Prison, What We Saw Will Haunt You Forever. Help this channel grow. Like the video, leave a comment, and subscribe for more stories. This helps us a lot. Thank you. The story begins. The birth of a fortress. Hidden deep within the mountains of El Salvador lies a place few dare to speak about. Its walls stretch for miles, its watchtowers piercing the clouds like sentinels from another world. Locals call it El Infierno de Concreto, the concrete hell, but its official name is CECOT, Centro de Confinamiento del Terrorismo. Built in record time and surrounded by layers of secrecy, this mega prison was designed not just to contain men, but to erase them. For decades, El Salvador was trapped in a storm of violence that devoured entire generations. Gangs like MS-13 and Barrio 18 ruled the streets like shadow governments. Children were recruited before they could read. Store owners paid weekly protection fees to survive. In neighborhoods like Soyapango and Mexicanos, the sound of gunfire was as common as church bells. In 2015, El Salvador earned a title no country wanted, the murder capital of the world. More than 100 killings per 100,000 people each year. The air itself seemed to carry the weight of fear. Amid this chaos, one man rose to power, promising order. Nayib Bukele, a young, social media-savvy president, declared war on the gangs that had paralyzed his nation. His message was bold: we will make El Salvador safe again. But the world had no idea how far that promise would go. After a weekend massacre in 2022 that left 87 people dead, Bukele enacted a sweeping state of emergency. Soldiers filled the streets. Civil rights were suspended overnight. Police could arrest anyone suspected of gang ties, without a warrant, without proof, without warning. In just over a year, more than 70,000 people were detained, almost 2% of the nation's adult population. The prisons were overflowing. Something had to be done. In early 2023, under tight secrecy, construction began on a structure so vast it would dwarf every other facility in Central America. Government officials called it the solution. But workers called it something else: the cage. Concrete poured day and night under armed supervision. Trucks delivered materials guarded by soldiers with rifles. No one knew the full blueprint. Workers were rotated weekly, told never to speak about what they saw. Even engineers whispered that certain underground areas were sealed before completion. When CECOT was finally unveiled, it stunned the world. 410 acres of reinforced concrete, electrified fences carrying 15,000 volts, 19 guard towers, 8 prison blocks, and enough capacity for 40,000 inmates. It was the largest, most fortified correctional facility ever built in the Western Hemisphere. A city of punishment carved into the earth. Government media called it the ultimate symbol of justice. Critics called it a monument to fear. From the sky, the compound looked like a military base. Inside, it felt like another planet. Rows of metal doors lined each corridor, locked by biometric scanners and facial recognition systems. Surveillance drones hovered overhead, tracking every movement within a 2-kilometer radius. Signal jammers blocked all communication. Even the floors were layered with gravel so every footstep could be heard. Silence was impossible, yet no one dared to speak. Officials said this was total control. But for those who entered, it was total disappearance. When the first transport buses arrived, hundreds of tattooed men were marched out in chains, their heads shaved, their eyes downcast. They were stripped to white shorts and rubber sandals, each assigned only a number: no name, no voice, no past. Cameras captured the scene. Lines of men crouched shoulder to shoulder, surrounded by masked guards. The footage went viral, broadcast by the government as proof of power. To many Salvadorans, it was justice served. To the world, it was a glimpse into something darker. Families watched helplessly as loved ones vanished. No visitation, no phone calls, no letters. Mothers stood outside CECOT's gates for days, holding photos of sons who never returned home. For some, no record of arrest even existed. It was as if their lives had been erased. Yet, inside El Salvador, crime dropped to historic lows. The once empty streets filled with children again. Businesses reopened. The government declared victory. But behind CECOT's electrified walls, thousands of men now lived without light, freedom, or identity, trapped inside a place that promised safety at the cost of humanity itself. As night falls over the concrete fortress, only one truth remains clear. CECOT was never built merely to contain, it was built to control. The moment a prisoner steps into CECOT, the outside world stops existing. Their name, their past, their family, all of it is stripped away at the gates. The guards refer to them only by numbers printed on their uniforms. No one speaks. No one resists. The silence is more powerful than chains. The intake process begins at dawn. Buses painted matte gray arrive under heavy military escort. From inside, shackled men emerge barefoot, their eyes covered with black cloth. Cameras capture every movement. They kneel shoulder to shoulder on the concrete floor, surrounded by masked guards holding rifles. A commanding voice echoes through a loudspeaker, "Look down. Do not speak. Do not move." Those who hesitate are shoved to the ground. The message is clear: here obedience is survival. Their belongings are taken, their hair is shaved, and every mark on their bodies is documented. Tattoos of MS-13 and Barrio 18, once badges of power, are now targets. The walls of CECOT are lined with cameras, drones, and motion sensors that track even a prisoner's heartbeat. The prisoners are stripped to white shorts and rubber sandals, left standing in rows like identical shadows. No individuality, no color, no voice, only control. Each man is assigned to one of the 8 massive cell blocks, each block surrounded by 40-foot walls of reinforced concrete. The cells themselves are about the size of a classroom, but packed with up to 150 prisoners. There are no beds, no windows, no privacy. The air hangs heavy with heat and sweat. A single fluorescent bulb flickers overhead, sometimes for hours, sometimes for days without light. Time begins to lose meaning. Prisoners spend 23 hours a day locked inside. The remaining hour, their so-called exercise, happens in a small cement courtyard surrounded by cameras and guards. There is no sunlight, only gray skies behind metal mesh. Every step echoes off the concrete walls, reminding them that even movement is a privilege. Meals are served twice a day, pushed through a metal slot. A scoop of beans, a handful of rice, a piece of tortilla. That's it. There are no utensils. They eat with their hands, seated on the floor, inches away from a communal toilet, a metal basin shared by over 100 men. The smell of waste, mold, and unwashed bodies never fades. Some prisoners whisper prayers before eating. Others stare blankly into nothing, their faces drained of emotion. Water comes from a single blue barrel placed in the corner of the cell. It's used for drinking, washing, and bathing, one container for everything. There's no soap, no toothbrushes, and no medicine. Diseases spread fast. Coughs echo through the corridors. Guards rarely respond to cries for help. If someone collapses, the others simply drag his body to the door and wait. Sometimes no one comes. Guards in black tactical uniforms patrol the corridors silently. Their faces are hidden behind masks, and their boots crunch on the gravel floors, the same gravel designed to make stealth impossible. They are forbidden from speaking to inmates. Even eye contact is discouraged. The power dynamic is absolute. One side watches, the other obeys. But even in a place built to erase humanity, fragments of resistance remain. Some prisoners carve tiny marks into the concrete walls, counting the days they've survived. Others whisper through drains or tap secret messages on metal doors. Rival gangs, separated by walls, still find ways to communicate, coded gestures, silent signals, even looks that carry meaning. Despite total control, fear alone can't kill connection. Occasionally, a prisoner disappears. His number is called during roll and he never returns. No explanation is given. The cellmates stare at the empty space where he once slept, wondering whether he's been transferred or taken somewhere far worse. Rumors spread about the isolation module, a section deeper inside CECOT that few have ever seen. Some say it's where disobedient inmates are sent to be broken. Others whisper that it's where people vanish completely. Outside, families gather every weekend at the main gate, holding photos and pleading for updates. Soldiers ignore them. Some mothers have been coming for months, still waiting to hear if their sons are alive. The government says these prisoners are the country's most dangerous men, but among them are countless others swept up in mass arrests, caught in the dragnet of fear. Inside CECOT, night and day blur together. The light flickers, the air thickens, and the silence grows louder. Some men begin to talk to themselves, whispering to invisible companions. Others fall into quiet madness, staring at the walls as if they might open and let them out. To outsiders, El Salvador has become safer. Crime has dropped. Tourists walk the beaches again. But inside the fortress, time does not move forward. It stands still, suspended in concrete and shadow. For those trapped inside, CECOT is not a prison. It is a place where identity fades and time itself dies. No one truly knows how deep CECOT goes. What the public sees, the concrete towers, the soldiers, the endless rows of prisoners kneeling in silence, is only the surface. Beneath it lies a hidden labyrinth of tunnels, sealed corridors, and dark rooms where the walls themselves seem to listen. It is here, according to leaked testimonies, that El Salvador's most secret operations unfold, far away from any camera, court, or witness. Whispers from former guards tell of La Zona Cero, the Zero Zone, an area so restricted that even top officers must surrender their weapons before entering. Access is granted only to those with military clearance, and the corridors leading there are guarded by multiple biometric checkpoints. What happens beyond those steel doors is unknown, but one thing is certain: those who go in never speak about it again. Some describe rows of cells with no lights, no ventilation, no sound. Others say prisoners are kept there in complete sensory deprivation for weeks or months, slowly forgetting their own names. Former construction workers have claimed that certain underground chambers were finished and sealed off before the prison was even inaugurated. "We built rooms with no doors," one anonymous worker said. "When we asked why, the supervisor told us not to ask again. Inside these walls, identity ceases to exist. Numbers fade. Memory fractures. Prisoners begin to lose track of who they were before arriving." Psychologists who studied survivors of extreme isolation describe it as cognitive erasure, the brain slowly dismantling itself in response to total silence. Some prisoners, after release, can no longer recall their families' faces. Others remain trapped in a mental loop, unable to believe they are free. For the outside world, these reports sound like fiction. Yet, satellite images have shown signs of underground expansion beneath the main complex. Heat signatures, ventilation shafts, and new concrete layers not included in the government's official plans. International observers requested access but were denied. The official statement claimed these were storage facilities and security bunkers. But those who have seen the blueprints say otherwise. There are rumors that certain prisoners are no longer recorded in the national database. No trial dates, no arrest records, nothing. Human rights groups believe these are the ghost detainees, people who have vanished entirely within the system. Their families search for them in every prison across the country, but no name appears. To the government, these men never existed. And yet, deep inside the restricted sectors, something darker may be happening. A handful of whistleblowers claim that CECOT has become an experimental ground, not for rehabilitation but for control. Some allege that psychological methods are being tested to erase gang loyalty, to reshape behavior through deprivation and fear. Whether true or not, the very possibility has horrified global observers. Amnesty International called it a laboratory of human obedience. But for President Nayib Bukele, CECOT is a symbol of victory. Under his rule, crime rates have dropped to historic lows, from 104 murders per 100,000 people to less than 3. The streets of San Salvador are safer than they've been in decades. Tourists return. Investors praise the new El Salvador. Billboards show smiling families with the slogan, "Peace at last." However, behind that peace lies an invisible price. Thousands of families have no idea where their loved ones are. In some towns, mothers gather every Sunday outside government buildings, holding faded photos and chanting a single word, "Justicia." They are ignored. Some have been threatened into silence. Others still wait, convinced that one day a guard will open the gate and their sons will walk out. The truth is that CECOT works, but not in the way the world imagines. It does not heal. It does not correct. It silences. It erases. And in doing so, it has become something more than a prison. A warning to every citizen about what happens when fear becomes law. Today, world leaders from across Latin America and even Asia have visited El Salvador to study the model. Some speak openly about building their own versions. The image of kneeling prisoners in white shorts has become both a symbol of power and a template for control. What began as a fortress to crush gangs may soon inspire a new generation of authoritarian prisons across the world. At night, when the floodlights of CECOT cut through the mountain fog, the echoes of muffled screams still drift beyond the concrete walls. Locals say that when the wind shifts, you can hear them, the sounds of men who no longer remember their names calling out to no one. And in those echoes lies the question that will haunt El Salvador for generations. How much safety is worth a nation's soul?